Okay, at this time, it is my great honor to introduce someone who has been instrumental in making today's workshop possible. A visionary leader who believes in decentralizing AI and empowering individuals to build, innovate, and earn. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of OpenxAI, Ashton Hettiarachi.
Hey guys. All right, awesome. Awesome. Um, Great start, guys. I think I have to learn how to do this kind of events in other places. So it's great to see you. Amazing energy. Hi everyone. My name is Ashton. I'm calling to you today from Dubai. I normally based out of Australia, Sydney. So it's glad to see you all. Thanks for coming, especially on a weekend. So today, my job is to give you guys a little bit inspiration about OpenxAI, but more importantly, what's going on in the AI space. I think it's good to understand what's happening in the AI space. Whether you want to be a builder, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to start your own startup, I think it's great to understand what's going on in this space. So I'm going to share a couple of slides with all of you. Hopefully that will give you some context and also some idea. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Someone has to give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen. All right, so let's just get some basics. AI as a technology, AI is the most, I would say, the most advanced technology that human have ever created. It's not the steam engine, it's not the rocket science, it's not the car, it's not the smartphone. It's it's the AI, because it's the most impactful technology that we invented. So if you look at AI as an industry, AI is, we are going through a S curve. So what does S curve means? Like when you have an industry, new industry, or a new technology or new innovation introduced to the world, it normally goes through a cycle. Like for those who familiar with internet, I'm sure you guys are young, but if you speak to your parents, they will tell you the transition between like not having internet and then having internet. It's basically changed the world. People used to be in silos in different regions, and internet gave them an opportunity to become like a global village or a small village. So I'm able to speak to you now. You get to see me, everything through internet. Um, and it took some time, right? So early days internet, it was concentrated across a small regions, especially in the United States, and then spread across to the world. Now internet is widely adopted. Um, Now internet is kind of in the late phase of the adoption. So AI is kind of a similar. So today AI, if you look at the AI evolution, today it's kind of like we already had a big hype, especially in the Western countries, with the introduction with ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is the first, I would say, a practical use case for anyone can experience AI. Prior to ChatGPT, AI, it's basically like more research, more domain specific. But ChatGPT introduced the idea of a general foundational knowledge base, which is very, very different. Now, that hype is over. If you ask anybody around the world, whoever has internet connection, if you ask, have you heard about ChatGPT? The answer is pretty much yes. So maybe 2 to 3 billion people heard about ChatGPT. So that's why between 2023 to 2024, so that was the peak of, we call it the peak of inflated expectation. that's the hype cycle. And then now the hype is over. Now industries and governments, startups, culture, um, military, everybody in these sectors, what they're looking for ways to apply AI other than like a chatbot, because the ChatGPT is a chatbot. So now AI, how AI can be applied to different industry. So that's where the S curve comes from. S curve means it's going to be adapting to multiple industries. It's no longer just a chatbot. It can be maybe building a software for you, maybe a booking a flight ticket for you, or even maybe you have a robotic car or robotic like a humanoid, and the AI is going to help to actually facilitate those the hardware, right? So I think AI is going to be the brain of those robotics. So we are going through a really important phase for the next, I would say, 5 years between 2025 to 2030. We are going to see a really big boom in the AI space. So after we have this hype cycle is over, and then it's going to be a nice growth in the industry. It's going to be slow. I don't think it's going to have like explosive growth that we had in the last maybe 2 years, but it's going to be adapted into multiple industries. So that's why I think AI is going to be widely spread, same like internet. Because if you think about internet today, internet is being used pretty much everything, right? Um, Things that you interact with, social media, services that you access, maybe even the governments, even police, law enforcement, medical science, transportation, banking, they all use internet. And I think in the next maybe 2 to 3 years, um, AI will be used on multiple industries. I think majority will be using a lot of advanced AI technologies. Now, if that's true, which I believe to be true, um, the big question: who owns AI, right? Who gets to control the AI? That question is important because you know we are we are in this world. AI is kind of like a new intelligence, right? It's not humans, but it acts like a human. If it understands like a human. So who owns all these AI technologies? That's the big question we need to ask. Um, the answer currently is owned by few corporations. I'm sure you have recognized some of these brands, um, because these brands not just have the biggest AI capabilities, they also happen to be the largest social media companies. They own larger social media companies. They own large IT infrastructure in the world. So these 4 to 5 companies, they pretty much control not only the AI technologies, what kind of a products, AI products or technologies that they supply or provide to people like you and I. They also have the biggest talent, right? They get the best AI researchers, they have the best developers, they have the best product engineers. So they are heavily concentrated to 4 to 5 companies. Now, this concentrated design, um, we call it centralized design. That's why there's a middle you have the blue dots coming into a one black dot, because the main black dot is the centralized. Um, but if you think about other than these corporations giving you AI innovation and AI product to public, if you look at there's an open source AI ecosystem. So this open source AI ecosystem is called Hugging Face. It started in the US. It's kind of like a marketplace, and also kind of like a developer ecosystem. So what they do, they gather the brilliant minds, the best minds in the world, they basically come together. They share AI models, they share AI data sets, and then they also like sell their services to other parties, like Google, Facebook, or Meta. What they do, they come into this ecosystem. It's kind of like a Craigslist, or it's kind of like Amazon.com for AI, right? So people can come and buy different things, and buy different services. So that's called a Hugging Face. Now, that Hugging Face also happened to be centralized, is owned by a company, owned by a corporation. Now, is that a good thing? Let's find out. Um, and if you think about AI, kind of like not AI as a technology, but if you think about like a weapon, now AI can be used against like it's integrated into political system. Now, AI, it's the AI war between United States and maybe the other nations. So they're always going to be kind of a display of power. Who has the biggest AI technology? Who has the biggest AI chips? Who has the biggest AI talent? So it's always going to be like a tug war. It's not just the corporations, but is also government involved. Why is the case? Uh, I think why it's the case because AI kind of like the modern version of Ark of Covenant. Like back in the history, like the olden days, if you have an Ark of Covenant, it's a very powerful symbol to tell the rest of the competition that you have the power. So AI, as an innovation, as a tool, so that's how people are just the governments are positioning themselves. Right. Now let's talk about the danger of this current design. Like, why is it dangerous? Now, if you think about, if you take a step back and if you just try to analyze how this centralized control, like what else these companies control other than AI. If you ask a question, so AI kind of like the human 2.0, if you think about it, right? So it's like another human, but it's digital. But if you look at these companies on the list, there are AWS, Microsoft, and Google, and OpenAI. So these corporations, they also happen to have the biggest data centers. So data center is kind of like the way I see it, like the brain, because inside the data center, they have like servers or computers. So computers process information, and all these AI algorithms and training is happening on those data centers. So data centers, if you look at like, you know, thousands of data centers provide the compute or the brain power or computing power. And this is kind of like a brain. Um, it's the same way how our brain works, like synapses and neurons. The same concept here. They're using data centers to fuel and power these AI services. Now, who owns these majority of the AI data centers and just the general data centers are the very same companies. And then let's talk about knowledge. Now, in ancient history, especially like Romans, they knew knowledge is the key. If you have more knowledge than any other nation or any other kingdom, you are in power always. Knowledge is the key. But if you look at today, if you look at Google, if you look at Meta, if you look at Microsoft, um, they pretty much know a lot about you. It's these corporations. They know about the weather. They know about the financial markets. They know about history. They know about the space. They know about pretty much everything. So that's why the knowledge is also concentrated across those 4 to 5 companies, because they scrap the web, they get all the entire Wikipedia. They have a database of historical records, database of the entire human species. What happened into the species beyond humans, what kind of animals out there, the stars and space, material science, political wars, political systems. I mean, they collected, we are not talking about like couple of terabytes of data. We're talking about, hundreds of millions of terabytes, if not petabytes of data. So they have the largest data or knowledge in the world. Because if you go to Google and if you ask a question, Google somehow knows the answer. How do they know the answer? Of course, they have the knowledge. It's like an oracle, right? So you have an oracle in front of you. You ask whatever questions you have. Oracle going to give you that answer. So that's why the same companies, they also happen to control the knowledge. They have the knowledge. They understand the context. And then the last part, these corporations, they also happen to have the biggest social media platforms. I didn't include Meta into this list, but if you include Meta, so Meta control Facebook, they own WhatsApp, they own Instagram. They've got some other smaller social media. If you look at Google, Google owns Google Search, Google owns YouTube, Google owns also the majority of let's say web application layer. So these corporations not only have the biggest AI, they also have the biggest data centers, which is the brain. They also have the biggest knowledge concentration. Now they also have the biggest social media applications. And some companies like Google, they have hardware like Android devices, like they sell Google phone, and Android is from Google. And Android is being used pretty much like half of the population, which means these apps can listen to you. These social media applications kind of like can understand who you are, understand your behavior, understand what makes you happy, what makes you sad. It understands pretty much everything about you without knowing, without even you realizing it. So if these companies, let's say tomorrow, all of a sudden, Facebook employees or Meta employees sitting in San Francisco or Silicon Valley, they decided to become the um, evil, let's say someone to be destruction. So what they can do, they basically can send fake messages or fake news to your social media. Imagine if it's some sort of a virus, and there's a fake news starts spreading because you're consuming news. Majority of the news now is through social media. You watch YouTube, you watch Facebook, you listen to Twitter, you listen to most of social media. So if you're hearing some news many people are talking about, you're also going to believe that's true, which means these corporations not just have a social media, they also can listen to you. They can also tell you something that you would believe, which means they also have a write capabilities. So imagine like a hardware, like when you store a file, that's called a writing capabilities. But these social media companies, they can write thoughts, images, idea in your head. That's why I call it the social media companies. They can do read and write to the society. They have pretty much wider distribution and control. So Now, just if you think about this setup, few corporations, they control a lot. Now, if you ask, okay, so what is the layers? Like who owns, let's say, Facebook or who owns Google, right? On this chart, you see a bunch of people. That's us. That's public, general people. And you have the second layer. You have corporations. But who owns those corporations? Those corporations, majority of the corporations owned by asset managers like BlackRock and Fidelity. These are asset managers in the United States. They have the majority of the shares of those public companies. Now, who owns BlackRock? Like who's running BlackRock, right? So according to public records, majority of the shares owned by Vanguard is another company. Now, but who owns Vanguard? Like who's controlling Vanguard? There's no public information. It could be a one person, it could be a family, it could be government. We have no idea. So now you start picturing what's going on, right? So it's kind of like we all kind of doing our day-to-day stuff, living our lives, but then we are pretty much like kind of a control, but also in control by the pyramid. And they're always going to say to you, hey, trust us, we are good guys. These corporations, let's say CEOs and like people behind those large corporations, they always say, we are not evil people, we are doing a great job to the society, etc. But don't get me wrong, I mean, what they have done is good things. But what we should be also aware, every big innovation, big change also comes with the consequences and risks. There's no zero risk happiness, right? So there's always comes with some sort of a caveat. So, and sometimes we feel like we are the puppets, right? Because they're gonna tell you, yes, we're gonna do the right thing. You pay us, you are the consumer, and we are gonna control you, right? Because that's how it is right now. Because like unfortunately, even though we're living in a democratic world, you cannot go to these corporations and say, hey, I don't like these features of your next AI service, you must change. But when you say that to those corporations, do you think they're going to listen to you? The short answer is no. They will tell you what is good for you, and you don't have a choice to choose whether it's using the service, or if you don't want to use the service, you get out. Now, if you look at that behavior or the current setup, it's very similar to what we had hundreds, if not thousands of years. If you look at like Roman Empire, if you look at Ottoman Empire, or Genghis Khan will say, okay, we're going to invade Europe. And there's no question asked. So anyone in his kingdom has to listen. So I feel that even though our life expectancy and also the quality of life have improved significantly, right? Thanks to innovation, better policies, and I think the faith in humanity. However, the structure is similar, to me at least, because back in the days, kings and pharaohs, they said, okay, this is what we believe to be true and to be good for society, and they just do it. Whatever they want to do to society, they just did it, regardless of what are the outcomes for people. And today, with technology, we have the same kind of a structure. If you look at the pyramid structure here, It's always been the case. Like we feel it. We cannot deny that. And I think this is where we have the same structure. Now, why this is bad? So I'll tell you why this is bad. Now, compared to, let's say, 500 years ago, a king or a pharaoh is trying to control the world. What is the impact? Is impact only within that region. If the king decide to kill everybody, the king only can kill people within that region. Of course, king can go to other countries, other regions, and start invading. But the actual impact is going to be slow. It's not going to be like within a week the one king can wipe out the entire world. Back in the days, it wasn't possible. But today, I think with the nuclear weapons, with the technologies that we use, the world is more connected than ever before. So therefore, if there is some sort of a advanced AI technology like an agent or AI superintelligence decided to attack the world, they attack those companies first. Like if you're the most advanced AI, as a bad AI actor wants to control the world, what they can do, they can go into those corporations' infrastructure, because when you get into their data centers, access to the brain. When they access to their servers, access to knowledge. When they access to all the social media platforms, they can talk to people. It can also listen to you. So if there is a really bad AI agent or AI intelligence decided to screw the world, or like just to screw up with the world, it can do that. And I think the perfect combination for a disaster, because we have given so much power, so much concentrated hope to 4 to 5 companies. So this combination, I think, is not a good combination, because we are giving them, okay, you guys own the world data centers, you own the world social media platforms, you also own the entire knowledge. But they also happen to be in a race in the AI space, right? Now, what do you think what people do when they're under pressure, right? Because for those corporations, it's a survival. Those corporations, it's about their share price. What kind of a news the Wall Street gonna talk about? What is the latest innovation coming out of Google? What's the latest innovation coming out of Microsoft? What's the latest technology coming out of Meta? If they don't keep up with it, they're going to go out of business in 6 months or 12 months. So they are in competition always to prove who's bigger and better. So that's the problem. So we've given them so much power, so much knowledge, so much resources. And then we also gave them like a race. Hey, you go and do whatever you have to do just to survive. So when you're given so much power, so much responsibility to few corporations, things not always go well. And if you want a good example, take a look at what happened in 2008 financial crisis. So in that financial crisis, a small group of banks decided what is good for the world in terms of monetary policies, in terms of how to deal with people's money. And they gambled and they failed. And what happened? The entire world suffered. So that is the financial crisis. But if you think about AI crisis, or artificial superintelligence crisis, it's not going to be like 2008 crisis. It's going to be much, much, much worse because we are not dealing with a few corrupt bankers. We are not dealing with a one sector called financial industry. We are basically talking pretty much the entire world. Um, so the idea that when you're given so much trust, so much accountability, responsibility to a small group of people, it always ended up in bad outcomes. Um, I'm not talking about 2008 crisis. I'm talking about like pretty much everything that happened in the history, like from World War II, World War One, any wars that happened in the past, anything to threat for humanity is usually started with a small group of people. And whether they have a greed, they have some arrogancy, they have some other agenda, they start something. They always screw things up. And that's the nature of humans. Like we are good at building things. We also good at screwing things. Now, what's a big question here? So if you think about, if we go down this path, right now we are in the scale of, let's say, advancements in civilizations. Humans are quite basic at the moment, even though we feel we are advanced. But if you think about more like I don't want to call it aliens, but let's call it other advanced civilizations. We are still in type 0 civilization. So there's a scale that people, especially who's looking for intelligence out of our planet Earth, they're classifying intelligence based on how much energy you consume, and how much technological advances that you have. So planet Earth or humans, so we are type 0 civilization at the moment. So the moment that we go from stuck in our planet, and if you go to Mars, imagine in 100 years, in 200 years, we have a settlement, a human settlement in Mars. Maybe some, let's say, mega factories or gigafactories near Jupiter. We will have asteroid mining operations will happen. So people might be traveling between Earth and Mars the same way we travel, let's say, Australia to America. It's kind of like a jumping on a plane and then travel. So if you think about that kind of future, it is happening now. So do you think if we keep the same, the structure, like small companies going to control the current world, because that's what's happening now. If you become type 1 civilization, which means we're going to colonize our solar system, and if you go down this path, and I think we will have the same companies going to control the solar system. So if we survived for whatever reason, and if we continue to progress, I think the current design, the financial incentives that we have today, it's going to be the same setup, which means few corporations going to control the solar system. They're going to control the data centers. They're going to control the social media. Like when you are messaging someone, like your cousin may be living in Mars, you're sending a message, you might be using Facebook for that. It's controlled by the same corporations. So what I'm trying to explain to you, like current design, even if you go 100 years into the future, it's going to be the same kind of a centralized structure. The same structure we had 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, etc. So it's the same design that we have. We try to keep up with it. The issue with this design, it's not a democracy. It's not a democratic system because it's controlled by few group of people or few group of powerful individuals or powerful companies, if you want to call it. So I think from a democratic point of view, not a single group of people get to decide what is good for society. That rights has to be shared among us because that's called democracy. So I think that's why, you know, people in Web3 space, especially in the decentralized space, what we are doing is we are basically fighting for that right. So we are saying centralization is dangerous. Centralization has proven has significant flaws. Um, for a capitalism, centralized systems are fantastic. But when you think about democracy, when you think about transparency, when you think about distributed risk, centralized systems are extremely bad. And if you think about the AI today, we know AI is one of the important technologies today. But if you think about AI, can we afford AI today? The short answer: not everybody. Not everybody can afford AI today. Not, when I say AI, not to consume, but imagine if you want to be an AI entrepreneur, if you want to be an AI builder, training cost alone probably will cost to basically buying a house in Philippines, maybe, right? It costs that much to train an AI model. It costs a lot to maintain the infrastructure. So that's why I call it internet is kind of an AI today is the same kind of a behavior that we had in late 90s or early 90s. It's very difficult to use because it's expensive. And then if you think about like entrepreneurships or if you want to build something, in the world today, the majority are non-coders. They are not coders. They are not qualified coders to actually build something. So they don't have a software development experience. If you look at like someone, like maybe your cousin or your parents or your friends, maybe running a pizza shop, they don't have experience coding, but they are entrepreneurs. They are running a business. So majority of entrepreneurs in the world are non-coders. So in summary, if I were to summarize, the AI is the most powerful technology. It's mostly centralized. People can't afford, and some people can't access. That's the issue right now. So this is the I would say the design philosophies on technology. On the left-hand side, you see centralized. Centralized means it's controlled by few companies or few group of people. So decentralized, the idea here is not controlled by one group of people. It's basically decentralized. If you look at decentralized and distributed, now that power of centralized power of control is now distributed. The accountability is distributed. The risk is distributed. So these are the designs that not just me, but a lot of people around the world are taking very seriously. If you look at the evolution of public infrastructure, so a lot of people, whenever I say, hey, public infrastructure, the first thing come to your mind, something like road or maybe electric grid or maybe railway. These are the public infrastructure. But in the last maybe 10 years, if you think about like networks like Bitcoin, Ethereum, these networks are considered as a public infrastructure. Why is it public infrastructure? Because it's kind of like, it's similar like a road and transportation. you can use these networks to build something, to interact with it. Because if you're using public transportation, you go from point A to point B. Is there some sort of a goal that you're accomplishing? But if you're using a Bitcoin network, you're also accomplishing a goal by sending a Bitcoin from your wallet to someone else. So that's why we are seeing evolution of having like a hybrid. We have physical infrastructure, we have digital infrastructure. Now, like digital infrastructure, if you think about evolution of digital infrastructure being taken as a very serious thing, so here's the first use case, right? Internet itself is a digital infrastructure. So internet, like we know internet as a World Wide Web or WWW, but the technical term for internet is TCP IP protocol, is a protocol. And a protocol allow like nodes or computers to talk to each other and allowing for people to build services on top. So that's the framework that we use. That's the protocol we use. So with that TCP IP protocol, it was invented by a military, US military, and then given to public. The moment that is given to public, it's changed everything, right? So the entire internet, Facebook, Google, cloud services, anything that you do, Uber, anything that you use today is built on top of internet or top of this protocol. So now this protocol is a public infrastructure. So it's not owned by a corporation. It doesn't own by anybody. It's just a standard public infrastructure anyone can access. So that's a public infrastructure. And that is during the internet era. So what's a great use case? Similar like a public infrastructure in the Web3 era, that's Bitcoin. So why Bitcoin is very important, not Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency, but if you think about Bitcoin as a network. So Bitcoin network is one of the secure network in the planet. Some might say, well, Ashton, that's not true. Bitcoin network has so much vulnerabilities. Well, if there are vulnerabilities, Bitcoin, if someone can hack into Bitcoin network, you have the biggest prize, right? If you can hack into the Bitcoin network, now Bitcoin network, the total Bitcoins in the Bitcoin network is over $1 trillion. So if you want to hack it, you can get up to the bounty or the price of hacking Bitcoin network is over $1 trillion. So because of the cryptography and also because of the design, network design is distributed, it's very difficult to attack. That's why this Bitcoin network is being operational for many, many years without having a problem. And the other key important part of the Bitcoin network, there is no CEO or a company behind Bitcoin network. Like we don't even know who's the founder of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin network is available to anybody. It's available to anybody. It's available to it's available anytime. Don't get me wrong. I think some people might confuse the idea of having a Bitcoin on an exchange like Binance. That's different. I'm talking about the Bitcoin network. You're interacting with the Bitcoin network directly. If you have your Bitcoin on Binance, that's a separate company holding your Bitcoin behalf of you. I'm talking about the actual pure Bitcoin platform or a Bitcoin network. So the cool thing about Bitcoin network does not require permission for you to access. So if you have a Bitcoin wallet and if you want to interact with the Bitcoin network, and if you want to send a Bitcoin from your wallet to someone, there is no approval process. There's no sign up. If you go to an exchange to send your Bitcoin, that's different. I get that. I'm talking about from the Bitcoin network point of view. If you know how to set up a Bitcoin wallet, and if you know how to download Bitcoin client, so all you need is a computer or a phone and internet connection. So if you have internet connection and a computer, you can access your Bitcoin network and interact with this Bitcoin network anytime, anywhere. It's available to anyone. So Bitcoin network is available even in North Korea. So if you have internet and if you download the Bitcoin client, you can access the network. It's the same way if you heard about torrent networks. So torrent networks, it works kind of a similar fashion. So now all of a sudden, we have Facebook as an owned by centralized company. It's available to anybody. Anybody can sign up, but they control what goes in, what goes out. They can do whatever they want. Bitcoin network, on the other hand, there's no such a thing, right? So Bitcoin network is, as long as Bitcoin network is up and running, anybody can use it, anybody can access it, and it's available to anybody. And so this is like a Facebook kind of a network, but is designed for money, or is designed for share of value. Now, for the first time in history, that's why this is a very important moment. For the first time in history, we have a public network and a very impactful network, not owned by one single authority, one single company, and there's no management, and nobody can shut down this network. Throughout the history, everything that we experienced, every time if I want to interact with me and with, let's say, someone else, let's say two parties, they're always a middleman. When you send money from your bank account to another person, the bank will be involved, the middleman. If you go to school and if you want to get, let's say, grade A, your teacher, your school will be the middleman. If you go to hospital to get some medicine out, the doctors and hospital will be the middleman. So everything that we lived in the past is everything controlled by a middleman. They're always the middleman. It's like the hidden shadow of everything that happened in this world so far. Now, why Bitcoin network is very, very, like, to me, is like a very important milestone in human civilization, because for the first time in history, now we have a living and breathing digital organism, kind of a digital organism. It's basically spread entire world. It can go to moon. If you have internet connection in moon, you can access Bitcoin network from moon. You can send Bitcoins from moon to someone in Earth. So that's a very, very different. So I call these networks kind of a public infrastructure, but more democratic systems or democratic networks. So the reason why I gave you a lot of these foundational knowledge and basics, because we caught up with a lot of like technical jargons, but we missing the foundational knowledge or first principle thinking. So that's why I wanted to showcase, the significance and the importance of OpenxAI, at least our ethos, our visions, our beliefs. Because OpenxAI, the way I see it, it's a kind of like a network, like Bitcoin network, if you think about it. Of course, technology is different, but think about like a distributed network. Anyone can access, anyone can go and build something. Like if you want to go and build your AI service, you can go and build it. And anyone wants to access your service, you can go and access it. So you don't need to get permission. You don't need to sign with any terms and conditions. You don't need email address. You don't need any of that. So that's why I think OpenxAI uh, technology and OpenxAI network will probably impact the world significantly if we manage to get more traction. Because we recently launched our project. We've been building for quite some times, like over maybe 3 to 4 years now. So we are a small team spread across Asia, US, and Middle East. So the idea is quite simple. How can we build a decentralized distributed network for AI? And that's what we built. Now, I'm going to wrap it up by showing what can you do with OpenxAI today. Of course, John going to give you more context on one of the application that we have. I think that's why you guys are here today. But I wanted to show you what is possible with OpenxAI with a good example. And now I'm going to wrap it up, and now I'm going to hand over to John to talk about the Base Media Factory. So this is a good example. This is a very good example. So I hope this example will give you a good idea what OpenxAI is providing. Now, if you think about watching a movie, back in 80s or 90s. So what do you have to do? You have to think, you have to watch a movie, and then you have to take a bus or walk into a video store. Now you can't find those video stores anymore. But in 80s and 90s, people go to these video stores, they scan movies. They pick up a movie they want to watch and then go to the cashier, smile and pay to the cashier. You pick up your DVD or your VHS cassette. You come home, put that DVD or CD or VHS cassette into the player, and you just hit play. So this is what used to be the process, watching a movie. Internet came, it changed everything. So what Netflix did, they utilized the internet protocol, the TCP/IP protocol, and they built a streaming service. So anyone can, instead of going into all these steps, now it became very convenient. And the payments, everything is digitalized. It's not cash anymore. You don't have to pay Netflix in cash. It will collect you in digital money. It changed everything. So if you're thinking about today launching an AI company, so what does a journey look like? Launching an AI company today, I'll show you this. So the stage one is you have to come up with an idea, right? So imagine you want to start your own AI company today. So what does the process look like? The stage one, you come up with an idea. Stage two, you have to build the technology. So you have to build the technology. You have to understand how to set up the technology. So imagine, let's take an example that someone in this group wants to build a chatbot, similar like a ChatGPT, but let's say specialized in Philippines weather, because I heard you guys have terrible weather. So let's say you build a chatbot. You can go to the chatbot, you can ask about Philippine weather, and it give you predictions. Far more accurate prediction than a news provides, or maybe what you can find on internet. Now, let's call it weatherphilippines.com. So that's the website. So now you're building stage two. Since you're a business, you want to collect payments from the users. So let's say the business model of this philippinesweather.com is $1 every month your user have to pay to use the service. Let's assume, okay? I mean, it could be $0.1, whatever it is, right? It could be in pesos. So the stage 3, in order for you to collect payments, um, you need to integrate a credit card payment system. So if you guys have ever built any e-commerce website or some sort of a SaaS services, software as a service, you need to integrate credit card payment system, like something like PayPal or MasterCard, Visa, and etc. So that's in the stage 3. You need to contact Visa, MasterCard, and say, "Hey, I have my new startup. I want to integrate your credit card system because I need to charge from customers, and I want to integrate into my website, into my startup." And they're going to ask you, "Okay, who are you? Like, tell me about yourself a little bit more." And they will decide whether they're going to give the Visa, MasterCard application able to integrate with your website. Now, the merchant, the credit card merchant or PayPal, going to collect payments behalf of your customer. And then PayPal or the MasterCard, they're going to transfer the money from their bank account to your bank account. But since you are a business, you're a startup, you need to have a bank account. So which means it cannot be your personal bank account, right? It has to be your company bank account. So you need to go and set up a company, because you can't just open a bank account without a company. Now you need to set up a company. And in order to set up a company, you have to go and find a lawyer and etc. So stage 3, even though it's nothing to do with the technology, nothing to do with like building your AI innovation, it's about things that you need to go and do other things. The same way, if you want to watch a movie, you have to go to a place, then you pick up a thing, and then you just hand over money, you get a receipt. It's the same process today. The painful journey, it takes weeks, if not months. The same way in 80s and 90s, if you want to watch a movie, it takes a half of your day or maybe a few hours for you to go and navigate the traffic, pick up the movie, come back home. It takes time. It costs more, right? But today you can watch a movie for a fraction of a cost. Maybe while you're sitting in the bathroom, you can do that. Internet changed everything. So what OpenxAI are doing, the technology that we built in the last 3-4 years, is to remove the step number 3. Instead of using the traditional systems, we basically cut that process. So how do we do that? We can show you. I think John can show you how you do that practically. And we also managed to, instead of like coding, we actually introducing a lot more easier way for people to do it, even if you're not a non-coder. So the difference here, if you want to start your own AI company, we estimate it will take maybe 2 months for you to go from 0 to 1, having an idea, and then your startup is up and running. Now the problem in Philippines, getting a bank account might be easy, but if you go to some places like Middle East, like in Dubai, if you want to open up a bank account, that would take like few months to get a bank account. And if you go to Africa, people don't even have bank accounts in Africa. They don't use bank accounts anymore. They don't even have a bank account. If you go to places like Sri Lanka, where I grew up, if you speak to my friends and say, "Hey, can you start your AI company tomorrow? And can you accept payments from a user from UK?" The answer is no. They need to be local only. They cannot be global. So these are limitations that we have. These are the pain points that we found. So what we did, we cut the step number 3, completely leveraging Web3 technologies. So instead of having a company, you use something called smart contracts. Instead of using bank accounts, you use Web3 wallets. Instead of using credit cards, you use specific wallet configuration in Web3. So you're basically cutting everything that exists today to basically slowing you down is we cut the whole process. The same way when you want to watch a movie and it takes time and it's painful process, and Netflix comes in and Netflix introduced a new concept, or YouTube introduced a concept called streaming service. We're doing the same. So what is OpenxAI network? Like I mentioned, the same way how Bitcoin make money borderless, OpenxAI makes AI borderless. So the cool design about OpenxAI, anyone can launch your AI company, AI service under 5 minutes. It's not weeks. It's going to take maybe 5 minutes to launch your AI company. In order to think about the idea, building the idea, that will take time. But in terms of launching it, it takes like 5 minutes. And then you can provide that service to anybody in the world, and anyone can access without a middleman. So there's no middleman. You can build an AI service, and you can give that AI service to anybody. So you will have a URL, like you can put any domain that you like. You can share that domain with anybody. Your customers, your consumers can access your AI service directly. And then whenever your customer pays you, that payment comes directly to your wallet. It doesn't go to a bank. It doesn't go to anywhere in the middle. There's no middleman, and there's no fees. The consumer pays directly to the user, or a consumer pays directly to the creator or the builder. So we are hoping you guys utilize this kind of innovation and cutting edge technology to actually build something, because I think the opportunity that everyone has with the networks like this is you can start your own AI service, and you can offer that AI service to anybody in the world, and they can start using your AI services and they can pay you. So you can run your entire AI. You can actually run an AI service from your bedroom. You don't need to have a company. You don't need to have a bank account. So that's the value proposition of OpenxAI. So I will just share this last slide just as an inspiration. Like what OpenxAI doing. So OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, is kind of IBM, right? So they introduced the biggest innovation for AI. And there's another project called DeepSeek. What DeepSeek did, instead of having a large like computers, expensive buildings and expensive computers is only available to few group of people. What DeepSeek did, they basically brought everything into general, like anybody else, right? So anybody can use AI services without costing so much money. And DeepSeek DeepSeek enable people to afford AI in a cheap, affordable way. What OpenxAI is doing is bringing same kind of innovation, technology, distribution to even like a general public, right? So that's our mission, and keeping AI distributed and keeping AI available to anybody, and following the democratic principles, and keeping the AI open and available. That's our mission.